The distress beacon had been screaming into the void for 6 cycles now. 6 full cycles. Commander Vek'tos of the Kalrathian Defense Fleet stood on the bridge of the cruiser Infinite Dawn, staring at the tactical display with his 3 eyes narrowed in concentration. Around him his crew maintained their posts with the nervous energy of soldiers who knew something had gone terribly, catastrophically wrong. "Status report," Vek'tos demanded, his mandibles clicking with barely contained anxiety. "Sir," no response from forward base Theta 9. His communications officer, Lieutenant Felara, reported for what must have been the 100th time. Her voice carried that particular tremor that came from repeating bad news over and over. "The beacon indicates catastrophic structural failure, complete loss of life support systems, and, sir, they're requesting immediate extraction of survivors." Vek'tos felt his blood chill. Theta 9 had been home to 12,000 Kalrathian personnel. 12,000 of the Imperium's finest soldiers, scientists, and support staff. The base had been positioned at the edge of contested space, right on the border with human territory. A show of strength. A declaration that the Kalrathians would not be intimidated by these upstart mammals who had only recently stumbled into faster-than-light travel. "Where are the reinforcements?" Vek'tos asked, already knowing the answer would displease him. "High Command reports all nearby battle groups are engaged in suppressing the Thorian rebellion in the outer sectors," Felara said quietly. "They estimate arrival time at 14 cycles. Minimum. 14 cycles." Vek'tos wanted to laugh, but the sound that came from his throat was more like a death rattle. 14 cycles was essentially a death sentence for anyone still alive down there. Life support couldn't last that long. Not with the damage the beacon described. Environmental suits had maybe 3 cycles of oxygen, 4 if you were lucky and didn't panic. "What caused the failure?" he asked, though part of him didn't want to know. The tactical officer, a grizzled veteran named Corfu, pulled up the preliminary data. "Seismic activity, sir. Massive tectonic shifts. The planet's crust basically decided to rearrange itself right under the base. Shoddy survey work, if you ask me. Someone back at Colonial Development is going to lose their head over this." "Right, because heads rolling in some bureaucrat's office would really help the 12,000 souls currently suffocating on a dying world." Vek'tos felt a bitter taste in his mouth. This was the Imperium's grand strategy at work. Rushing to plant flags on every marginally habitable rock just to keep pace with human expansion. Never mind whether those rocks were actually stable enough to support a military installation. "Sir," Felara's voice cut through his dark thoughts. "I'm picking up a signal, not Kalrathian. It's by the ancestors." "What is it?" "Human vessel, sir. Designation reads as UESS Pathfinder. Registry shows it as a long-range survey ship. They're responding to our distress beacon." The bridge went silent. Every single crew member turned to look at Vek'tos with expressions ranging from disbelief to horror. A human ship, responding to a Kalrathian distress call. This had to be some kind of joke, right? Some cosmic prank being played by the universe itself. Relations between the Kalrathian Imperium and the United Earth systems were, to put it diplomatically, strained. There had been border skirmishes, trade disputes, and more than a few incidents where shots had been fired in anger. The humans were aggressive, expansionist, and worst of all, they refused to acknowledge the natural superiority of the elder races. They acted like they belonged at the big table, when everyone knew they were barely out of their planetary cradle. "How far out are they?" Vek'tos asked, his voice carefully neutral. "They're already in orbit, sir," Corfu said, his own voice tight with tension. "They must have been surveying the neighboring system when they picked up our beacon. They're hailing us. Audio only." Vek'tos squared his shoulders. Whatever happened next, he would face it with the dignity befitting a Kalrathian commander. The voice that came through the speakers was female, calm, and carried a hint of what humans called a southern accent. "Kalrathian vessel, this is Captain Emma Torres of the UESS Pathfinder. We received your distress beacon and are prepared to render assistance. What is your situation?" For a moment, Vek'tos considered refusing. Pride warred with pragmatism in his chest. and Pride was putting up one hell of a fight. But then he thought of 12,000 Kalrathians dying slowly in the dark, and Pride suddenly seemed like a very small thing indeed. Captain Torres, this is Commander Vek'tos. We have a catastrophic base failure on the planet below. 12,000 personnel. Life support is failing. Our reinforcements won't arrive for 14 cycles. There was a pause. Then, Commander, we have a crew of 87 aboard Pathfinder. We're a survey ship, not a rescue vessel, but we've got functioning shuttles and some experience with disaster relief. If your people can hold out, we'll do what we can. Vek'tos felt something unclench in his chest. Captain Torres, we would be grateful for any assistance you can provide. Understood, Commander. We're beginning deployment, now. Torres out. The bridge remained silent for a long moment after the transmission ended. Finally, Kalrathian spoke up, his voice carefully neutral. Sir, permission to speak freely. Granted. What in the seven hells just happened? Vek'tos had seen many things in his 40 cycles of military service. He had witnessed fleet actions that turned entire star systems into graveyards. He had walked through the ruins of civilizations that had risen and fallen before his ancestors learned to make fire. He had, on one memorable occasion, watched a Thorian war priest try to arm wrestle a cargo-loading mech and actually win. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for watching 87 humans attempt to rescue 12,000 Kalrathians from a planet that was actively trying to kill everyone on it. Captain Torres, you need to pull back, Vek'tos said, into the con, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. The seismic readings are off the charts. Another major quake is imminent. Emma Torres' voice came back steady as a rock, steadier than the actual rocks on the planet below. Ironically enough, Commander, we're aware. We've got about 11 minutes before this whole region goes up like a dropped soufflé. That's plenty of time. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. Vek'tos watched his tactical display as human shuttles zipped through an atmosphere that was rapidly filling with volcanic ash and superheated gas. They were flying patterns that would make a stunt pilot weep with envy, dodging debris and riding thermal updrafts like they were on some kind of recreational excursion. How many have they extracted so far? He asked Felara. 8,412, sir, she reported, her voice carrying a note of awe that Vek'tos absolutely shared. They're loading them onto their cargo bays, medical facilities, crew quarters, even storage compartments. Captain Torres has personnel sleeping in hallways to make room. 8,000 in less than 4 cycles. Vek'tos did the math in his head and felt dizzy. The humans had somehow managed to evacuate more personnel in 4 cycles than Kalrathian doctrine suggested was possible in 10. And they were doing it with a fraction of the ships and personnel that would normally be required. Shuttle 7 to Pathfinder, we've got a situation down here. A male voice cut through the command channel. The accent was different. Something Torres had called Midwestern. Collapsed tunnel, approximately 400 personnel trapped behind a debris wall. We need cutting equipment, thermal lances, something that can punch through reinforced duracrete. Torres didn't hesitate. Shuttle 7. This is Torres. Use the mining charges from Cargo Bay 3, set them for shaped detonation. Minimum yield. You've got 9 minutes. Copy that, Captain. Quick question. Where exactly are these mining charges? Right next to the medical supplies. I told you not to move because they were perfectly organized. There was a brief pause. The supplies that are now scattered across 6 different containers because of that last tremor. Those would be the ones, yes. I'm going to have words with geology about stable planets when we get home. Despite everything, despite the terror and the impossible situation, and the fact that his entire career might end in a diplomatic incident, Vek'tos found himself making a sound that might have been a laugh. These humans were insane. Completely, utterly, magnificently insane. Commander Kalrathian said quietly, pulling up a new feed. You need to see this. The image showed the interior of one of the human shuttles. It was packed, absolutely stuffed with Kalrathian refugees. They sat shoulder to shoulder, mandibles clicking nervously, eyes wide with shock and relief. And there, moving among them with containers of water and emergency ration packs, was a human crew member. She couldn't have been more than 20 cycles old, this tiny female with dark hair pulled back in what humans called a ponytail. She was smiling, actually smiling, as she handed out supplies and spoke in broken, heavily accented Kalrathian. Is okay. You safe now. We get you home, yes. One of the refugees, a young soldier who looked barely old enough to wear the uniform, reached out with a trembling hand and touched the human's arm. Thank you, he said in standard. Thank you. The human's smile got bigger. No problem, buddy. That's what neighbors do, right? Vek'tos felt something crack inside his chest. Neighbors. This human child was calling them neighbors while risking her life to pull them out of a collapsing hellscape. When was the last time the Imperium had thought of humans as neighbors? When had they ever been anything but rivals, competitors, obstacles to be managed? All shuttles, this is Torres, 6 minutes to Cataclysm. Everyone not currently pulling someone out of rubble needs to be heading for orbit, now. The tactical display erupted into organized chaos as human shuttles broke off their rescue operations and began screaming toward space. Vek'tos watched as Shuttle 7, the one with the trapped personnel, continued to sit on the surface. 5 minutes. 4, 3. Shuttle 7. Report. Torres' voice had an edge now, the first hint of stress Vek'tos had heard from her. Almost there, Captain. We've got the charges set, just need to... Okay, breaching now. 2 minutes. The planet's surface was beginning to buckle visibly on the scanners. Magma was pushing up through fracture lines like blood from a wound. Shuttle 7, you are out of time. Abort and return to orbit. Negative, Captain. We've got eyes on the survivors. 30 seconds, and we're golden. 1 minute, Vek'tos realized he was holding his breath. Across the bridge, every single one of his crew was staring at the tactical display, watching that single human shuttle sitting on a world that was about to tear itself apart. We've got them. All aboard, punching out now. The shuttle leaped from the surface just as the ground beneath it vanished into a glowing chasm. It rode the shockwave up, its hull glowing cherry red from the heat, and somehow, impossibly, made it to orbit. 12,000. Falara whispered. They got all 12,000. Vek'tos opened a channel to the Pathfinder. Captain Torres, why have no words sufficient to thank you? Emma Torres sounded tired now, the adrenaline wearing off. Commander, someday one of our people is going to be in trouble. Someday we're going to need help. When that day comes, I hope you remember this. Captain, Vek'tos said, and meant every word. I guarantee the entire Imperium will remember this. And they did. Oh, they absolutely did.